We're very pleased to have as part of this Tony Award special another critic, a delightful one, and also a radio person, because she is the theater critic for WMNR-FM 88.1 in Connecticut. It's an arts station, and she's got a show there called the Theater Circuit that airs several times a week, where she gets to review shows both in Connecticut and in New York. And Rosalind Friedman is also on the nominating committee of the Outer Critics Circle. So very busy and happy woman. And I assume you're happy about this season on Broadway. It was a good one for you, too?
Well, I found it very interesting. A little disappointing in the musical department.
Okay.
So I'd love to talk about that.
Well, we are going to, because our first category is Best Original Score. And the nominees are Cry Baby, In the Heights, The Little Mermaid, and Passing Strange. Rosalind, your thoughts?
Well, I'm very shocked that Cry Baby was even nominated. I thought it was rather inferior. I liked the choreography, but the rest of the show, I thought, I agreed with Ben Brantley, tasteless claptrap. Anyway,
yeah.
In the Heights, very interesting score. I did see it off Broadway. I'm going to see it again on Broadway, but my impression at the time was that it was lively. I'm not so sure about the score as far as originality. But then I did see The Little Mermaid, which was so-so. And Passing Strange was the most interesting for me of the four nominated for original score. Because even though I thought it was too loud, like a rock concert instead of a Broadway show, I thought the music was very interesting. The book, I thought, for the musical, which we can go into another time in the next section,
yeah.
I thought was very dated. But I liked the score, and I liked some of the songs in it. So I thought of all the four of them, I liked for Best Original Score for the Tony Awards, I would vote for Passing Strange.
And do you think the committees, the voters of the Tony Awards, will go somewhere, or will they go
In
In
the
the
Heights will probably win.
Okay.
I think it is it's a very felicitous show. Very happy.
Okay.
And
yes,
that may be the reason it's getting so much attention.
Now, since you obviously did not like Cry Baby, I'm wondering which show you would have substituted for it if you were making
Well,
a
I
list.
think it's a disgrace that Frankenstein was not nominated.
Okay.
I think this is a punishment to Mel Brooks, particularly. I think that he and his partners have shown too much hubris. They haven't played the game. They started with this, charging a lot of money again for their tickets, and then not wanting to report their profits to play bills. So I think that, all in all, I think it was a very entertaining, and it was a real musical. But I say a real musical, it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it has an excellent book.
Okay, there you go. And those songs are pretty fun. I think people just expected the producers part 2, and when that didn't quite happen, the disappointment outweighed just how much they really should have been disappointed.
Well, if you listen to it could even have won for Best Score, because if you listen to the score, it's very clever.
Oh, good.
It's, some of the scenes were marvelous. Of course, the best one was the dance of the monster, and that was to Irving Berlin's Putting on the Wrist.
Right. Well, they would hold that against it, and as I assume they would hold some of the Little Mermaid against it, because half the score wouldn't qualify, would it? Because it was already in the movie.
Exactly. And
are you sad that A Catered Affair didn't make it, or you didn't care about that show?
Well, I think A Catered Affair, I happen to like it very much. Most of the people with whom I was sitting in the audience didn't care for it at all.
Oh.
My friend and I, who went together, and perhaps because she was just through a wedding, she was giving a wedding for her daughter, so she really identified with this. But I thought it was a very interesting and charming piece. It's a chamber piece. No one is screaming, no one is yelling.
Right.
And goodness sakes, people can't adjust to that anymore.
And I think the music is better than people are giving it credit for. I think
I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting piece, and I want to go back and see it again. I hope it doesn't close before that.
Now, we're moving on to staying with musicals, but now the next category is Best Director of a musical.
Yeah.
And the nominees are Sam Buntrock for Sunday in the Park with George, Thomas Kail for In the Heights, Arthur Lawrence for Gypsy, and Bartlett Sher for Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific. Roz, your thoughts?
Well, I really thought all 4 directors did an excellent job. I really have no problem with their direction. I think I was so impressed with Gypsy. The performance that I saw was so clear, the clarity, the direction. Every single person in that show was absolutely perfect. And, of course, Patti LuPone was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really was blown away by the whole thing. And I couldn't believe that a man of Arthur Lawrence's age could do this again and do it even better than he's done it before, it would seem to me.
Well,
however, because he's done it so many times, he's not going to win the Tony. But he will win our admiration. But I think Bartlett Sher will win for South Pacific for the sheer scope of the production. It's a huge production with, tremendous challenges. And I think he meets them. It's a magnificent production for what it is. Sunday in the Park I loved this show when I first saw it so many years ago. This time I thought it was too complicated. It was too busy.
Okay.
It was over the top. And, but tremendous challenges. And I have to give credit to the director for directing 2 different shows, the first act and the second act.
Because there are different time periods, different everything, pretty much.
Exactly. So it's a huge challenge to pull it off.
And as you said, you haven't seen In the Heights on Broadway yet. So
well, unfortunately, because the Outer Critics, we voted for that as the best off-Broadway show last season. And therefore, the rules state that we cannot consider it when it moves to Broadway. The same thing happened, with several other productions over the years, and it's a very knotty subject. But that is the way it is. And so because of that, I'm going to see it actually this week.
Oh, good. Okay.
On Broadway.
I think you'll enjoy it. It's a very lively piece.
Well, I saw it. I've seen it, and
it's
really basically, I'm sure it may have grown a little bit, but it's basically the same. The people in it told me it's the same thing.
Now,
but I do want to mention, we haven't mentioned Spamalot. We haven't mentioned Xanadu.
Oh, Xanadu, yeah.
And I thought Xanadu was terribly entertaining. And the theater jokes, the inside jokes in that, Douglas Carter being very, very funny and very charming.
Well, you can't put that one up for Best Original Score because it all came from the movie and pop.
No, I can't.
The direction,
No, I wouldn't. But I would just say that it was like the Spamalot of a couple of years ago.
So would you have... Well, it's one of the best musicals up. So if you were going to vote for Best Musical between Crybaby, In the Heights, Passing Strange, and Xanadu, it would be... Well,
I don't want to vote. I don't like any of them for Best Musical. But I'd have to go for In the Heights. Because it's fresh and it's about a different part of the city and it has some very good qualities in it. And I like the story. I like the book.
But it sounds like if Young Frankenstein were up there, that would have gotten your vote for Best Musical?
Yes, it would have.
What about for Best Play, Roz Friedman? Would you go for August Osage County, Rock and Roll, The Seafarer, or The 39 Steps?
Well, I thought each of them had wonderful qualities about it. I was very fond of The Seafarer. Of course, every Irish play has their drunks and their going on, but it was very well done. And Rock and Roll was fascinating. Tom Stoppard is just a genius. And 30 Steps was just, 39 Steps was cute, and clever. But I just think that this August Osage County is the closest thing we have to a great Tennessee Williams play, a great Arthur Miller play. It's in that field. We don't have anything to compare to it. The other shows don't. This is a beautifully written show, beautifully acted, beautifully staged. And it's deserving of all the awards that it's getting.
And I think it will get the Tony, as you would say.
Well, I think it has to. After a Pulitzer Prize and the Outer Critics gave it. Did the Drama Desk also?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a clean sweep, I'm sure. And I want to thank you, Rosalind Friedman, so much for sweeping into this Tony Award special. Roz, it's always great to talk to you, and thanks again.
Thank you, David.